So next we have Shin, who is a researcher at the Civilian Military Watch, and he's mainly focused on analyzing and educating people in South Korea around the South Korean military policy and its posture and how it impacts the US's geopolitical designs in the region. So over to you.
Hi, my name is Shin Jaeuk. Thanks for inviting this forum. I'm going to talk about the implication of an enhanced Indo-Pacific strategy for South Korea, focusing on the revitalization of the UN mission and the US-Japan-Korea military alliance that the US is pushing for. On August 2nd, Germany became the 18th member of the the 18th member of the United Nations Command. The Moon Jae-in administration had opposed, but it was completed under Yoon Suk-yeol administration. At the ceremony, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius talked about what it means to be a member of UNC. It is a symbol of our shared commitment to a rule-based international order that respects the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity, just like Tae Han-sung mentioned, and said our decision to join UNC demonstrates our strong belief that the security of Europe is closely linked to the security of the Indo-Pacific. The UNC was established by UN Security Council Resolution 84 in 1950, following the outbreak of the Korean War. Its current mandate is to maintain the armistice and provide military power to the Korean Peninsula in case of an emergency. Since the early 2000s, however, the U.S. has sought to transform the UNC into a U.S.-centric multinational force through the UNC revitalization, an effort to use it as a force for its Indo-Pacific strategy in East Asia. While there is some debate about whether the legal basis of UNC remains, the reality is that it can't but continue if the US wants it to continue. While South Korea's Yoon Suk-yeol government cites UNC only as a deterrent to North Korea, as the German defense minister said earlier, intends to use UNC as a centerpiece of its Indo-Pacific strategy and the rule-based order. Today, as the U.S. struggled to pay for security abroad on its own budget, UNC is well positioned to mobilize multinational forces. Already, UNC members such as the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand are in East Asia around the freedom of navigation in the Indo-Pacific. However, they are using the enforcement of sanctions against North Korea as a pretext for their presence in the region and are already using UNC's rear bases in Japan as staging areas. At the same time, these countries are also engaged in freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea as part of their participation in the Indo-Pacific strategy. In that sense, Germany's membership in the UNC guarantees an institutional channel for Germany, a key NATO member, to engage in an Indo-Pacific strategy as South Korea strengthened its cooperation with NATO as a part of NATO Asia-Pacific Partnership, along with Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. The Yoon Suk-yeol administration speaks about the deterrent power of the UNC. However, the problem is that in case of Taiwan contingency, South Korea risks being implicated. Yoon's government has also officially stated that it is committed to the Indo-Pacific strategy. This is, of course, in line with the U.S. intentions. In early November 2023, the defense minister of UNC member states met together for the first time since the Korean War. Meanwhile, the current commander of U.S. forces in Korea formalized during his confirmation hearings that U.S. forces would participate in the event of a Taiwan-like situation. This means that South Korea could very well be involved. Next, I'll talk about the institutionalization of the U.S., Japan, South Korea military alliances. In July, two documents were adopted that will have a very significant impact on South Korea's security. The Memorandum of Cooperation on Trilateral Security Cooperation Framework, adopted by the defense minister of the three countries in Tokyo. This is the first security-related cooperation memorandum signed by the military authorities of the three countries. Experts view that it has basically consolidated the trilateral military alliance. The TSCF includes the aforementioned regularization of trilateral joint exercises, high-level policy consultation, information sharing, and defense exchanges and cooperation. The memorandum is a follow-up to the Camp David Declaration, which was agreed to by leaders of three countries in August 2023 and focuses on the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. It is an important document that could provoke strong reactions from countries that the alliances views as enemies, China, Russia, North Korea, but in South Korea, it has neither been approved by the National Assembly nor its full text been revealed. It's understood that standard operating procedures have been fully worked out. In fact, in June, the UK ROK multi-domain exercise, Freedom Edge, was held. While the military has previously practiced in limited areas such as search and rescue, missile warning, and escorting strategic bombers, this is the first time a comprehensive multidisciplinary exercise has been held, including sea, underwater, air, and cyber. The exercise took place in Jeju Naval Base. Ever since the construction of the Jeju Naval Base, it was suspected that it would be used as an outpost against China. This is stating to be realized. The second document is the guideline for nuclear operation for nuclear deterrence on the Korean Peninsula. This was accomplished by Yoon's government's insistence on extended deterrence, which was also a great benefit to the U.S. The guideline called for U.S. nuclear operation on the Korean Peninsula to be supported by South Korean conventional forces. This inevitably entails South Korean subordination, as it means building South Korea's military capabilities to support U.S. nuclear deterrence and nuclear operations. The centrality of the U.S. in the ROK-U.S. alliance is further reinforced. Extended deterrence is of course intended for North Korea, but the problem with this is that when a U.S. intercontinental ballistic missile flies to Pyongyang, much of its flight path is not much different from that of a U.S. ICBM targeting Beijing, China. In reality, U.S. nuclear operations include not only North Korea, but also nuclear threats from China and Russia. In this case, the U.S. would be defending U.S. strategic assets with South Korea's conventional weapons without any additional obligations, while the U.S. would be practicing nuclear operations under the Indo-Pacific strategy. Shortly after the guidelines were adopted, the first combined nuclear conventional tabletop exercise between the U.S. and South Korean military authorities was held in August at Camp Humphreys in Pyeongtaek, under the scenario of a North Korean nuclear attack. South Korean security expert Moon Jang-yeol assessed the two documents as followed. The ROK-U.S. nuclear guidelines, which institutionalized the trilateral military alliance. and the ROK US-Japan framework, which integrates the three countries through three integration. The ROK US nuclear and conventional integration, the Self-Defense Forces Unified Operation Command, which will be launched next year, the USFK's Unified Military Command, which will be established accordingly. Lastly, I'll talk about the dangers facing people in South Korea. In what is considered the West Coast War Belt, which includes Soseongri village in Cheongju, where THAAD is deployed, Pyeongtaek with Camp Humphreys, Kunsan with Kunsan U.S. Air Base, and Jeju with the Jeju Naval Base, which is a Korean base but can be used by the U.S. at any time. These people have had land taken away and are vulnerable to U.S. military crimes, crashes by aircraft such as in Pyeongtaek, noise pollution, and environmental damage like in Okinawa. All of these has been marginalized and has gone largely unnoticed. This is not well known among the general population and is not known by other people than those living there. Another point to consider is why cooperation between South Korea and Japan has not been successful in the past. The biggest obstacle to the military alliance between South Korea and Japan has been the historical issue between the two countries. In fact, the Korean-Japanese past history problem is the same as the US-Japan-Korea past history problem. The San Francisco system was established by absolving Imperial Japan of some of its past responsibility. Against this backdrop, Japan tried to regain its status as a war-capable state by denying the existence of the problems caused by its hegemonic imperialistic colonization. Without any reflection on this situation, the Yoon Suk-yeol government has acted as if it were a spokesperson for Japanese government, disregarding the victims of Japanese imperialism. The history of imperialism's victimization is also one of the great danger of the US-Japan military alliances. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think, again, an important intervention to be made. For those who don't know, and we discovered this in our hyper-imperialism study, the Republic of Korea has 62 military bases and has the third largest installment in terms of a country or territory of foreign military bases after Germany and Japan. And this is not including, as Corazon mentioned, that there are a lot of different forms of a military base that are a base in all but name. So the military presence of the US often escapes us because of all these unofficial, non-permanent bases or lily pads and various forms of occupations that aren't counted or listed as military bases.